Welcome back to our cinematic journey, where we break down the most thrilling, mind-bending films for you. Today, we're delving deep into the intense, action-packed science fiction masterpiece, Edge of Tomorrow, starring Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt. Directed by Doug Liman, this time loop film mixes exhilarating action, heart-stopping tension, and sharp humor, all while pushing our heroes to their physical and emotional limits. In this video, we'll break down the story in detail, analyzing the characters, the high-stakes plot, and the brutal repetition that makes this film unforgettable. Buckle up, because it's time to dive into Edge of Tomorrow. The film is set in a near-future world where Earth has been invaded by a ruthless alien species known as the Mimics, who have rapidly conquered much of continental Europe, leaving devastation in their wake. These creatures are unlike any alien force humanity has encountered before, and their ability to outmaneuver and outthink human forces has brought the planet to the brink of destruction. The Mimics come in 3 distinct forms, each representing a different level of their hierarchy. At the bottom of this chain are the Mimic drones, agile, terrifying foot soldiers that devastate human ranks with overwhelming numbers. Above them are the Alpha Mimics, fewer in number but far more dangerous, possessing the ability to reset time upon their death. At the top of the chain sits the Omega, the mastermind of the Mimics. The Omega can manipulate time itself, ensuring that every time an Alpha is killed, the Omega resets the day, retaining knowledge of future events and adjusting the Mimic strategy to remain perpetually one step ahead of the human forces. This gives the Mimics an almost invincible edge over humanity, which is unaware of this terrifying power. Despite forming a global coalition known as the United Defense Force, UDF, humanity is losing the war against the Mimics. Over the years, the UDF has only achieved one significant victory in the Battle of Verdun, a battle that gave humanity hope, but was secretly orchestrated by the Mimics to create a false sense of security. Enter Major Bill Cage, Tom Cruise, a smooth-talking, cowardly U.S. Army PR officer who has never seen combat. Cage is skilled at promoting the war effort and boosting morale from the safety of a desk. He is called to London, where the military's Supreme Commander, General Brigham, is preparing for Operation Downfall, the largest military invasion in history, designed to push the Mimics out of continental Europe. Brigham orders Cage to join the first wave of the Normandy invasion and document the battle for propaganda purposes. Knowing he has no combat experience and terrified by the thought of entering battle, Cage attempts to refuse. In a desperate move, he tries to blackmail Brigham, threatening to expose the predicted heavy casualties. Unimpressed, Brigham has Cage arrested, tasered, and sent to the front lines as a private. Cage awakens the next day at Heathrow Military Base, stripped of his rank and under the command of Master Sergeant Farrell. He is now part of J-Squad, a group of hardened soldiers preparing to be deployed to the front. Disoriented and still in shock, Cage has no time to adjust to his new reality. He's thrown into battle almost immediately. As the invasion begins, Cage and J-Squad are deployed to a beach in France, eerily similar to D-Day, equipped with high-tech exoskeleton suits that enhance their physical abilities. However, things go catastrophically wrong almost immediately. The Mimics seem to anticipate the invasion and slaughter the human forces in a chaotic and brutal massacre. During the battle, Cage is clumsy and ineffective, barely managing to survive. As he stumbles through the carnage, he encounters an Alpha Mimic. In a desperate last stand, Cage manages to kill the Alpha by detonating a bomb, but he is mortally wounded in the process. As the Alpha's blue blood spills onto Cage, something strange happens. Cage dies, and suddenly awakens back at Heathrow Military Base, 24 hours earlier. Cage quickly realizes that he has been caught in a time loop. Each time he dies, he wakes up at the same point on the tarmac at Heathrow, moments before being sent into battle. Confused and frustrated, Cage initially tries to escape his fate by deserting or changing his actions, but each attempt ends in his death. He's stuck in an endless cycle of dying, resetting and being sent back into combat, only to die again. As the time loops continue, Cage starts to survive longer in battle. With each iteration, he gains valuable information about the battlefield, the Mimic's movements, and how to fight more effectively. He eventually encounters Sergeant Rita Vrataski, Emily Blunt, the legendary hero of the Battle of Verdun, known to the public as the Angel of Verdun. In one of the loops, Cage saves Vrataski on the battlefield, and she recognizes the same ability in him that she once had. Vrataski had also been caught in a time loop after killing an Alpha, but lost the ability after receiving a blood transfusion. She tells Cage to find her after he resets. After resetting, Cage approaches Vrataski at the military base, and she brings him to Dr. Carter, a former government scientist turned outcast who has been studying the Mimic's time-looping ability. Carter explains that the Mimics are able to manipulate time because the Omega resets the day every time an Alpha dies. Cage now has the same power, thanks to the Alpha's blood mixing with his own. To defeat the Mimics once and for all, they must locate and destroy the Omega, the true brain of the alien force. Vrataski takes Cage under her wing, training him relentlessly in combat so that he can survive the battlefield and achieve their mission. The film shows a series of brutal training montages where Cage is repeatedly injured and killed, only to reset and start again. Over time, Cage becomes an expert fighter, growing stronger and more confident with each loop. The dynamic between him and Vrataski grows as they develop a close bond, although she remains distant due to her own trauma from the time loop. As Cage continues to reset, he begins having visions of the Omega, which lead him to believe it is hidden in a dam in the Swiss Alps. After countless loops, Cage and Vrataski make their way to the dam. However, when they arrive, they discover it is a trap. An Alpha is waiting for them, and its goal is to wound Cage without killing him, allowing him to bleed out and lose his time-resetting ability. In a moment of desperation, Cage deliberately drowns himself, ensuring that he will reset and retain his powers. The failure at the dam marks a major setback for Cage and Vrataski, but they now realize that the Omega is far more cunning than they imagined. Determined to end the time loop once and for all, Cage and Vrataski come up with a new plan. They manage to convince General Brigham to give them an experimental device that can track the Omega. Using the device, Cage discovers that the Omega is hidden beneath the Louvre in Paris, deep within the flooded underground structure. However, during their escape from the General's headquarters, Cage is severely injured and receives a blood transfusion, which strips him of his time-looping ability. This raises the stakes considerably. Cage now has only one final chance to defeat the Omega. If he fails, the Mimics will continue to devastate humanity. In a daring final assault, Cage, Vrataski, and the remaining members of J-Squad launch a high-risk mission to infiltrate the Louvre and destroy the Omega. The team suffers heavy casualties as they fight their way through the Mimics guarding the location. One by one, Cage's comrades fall in battle, sacrificing themselves to give him and Vrataski a chance to complete their mission. In the climactic scene, Vrataski sacrifices herself, leaving Cage to dive into the flooded underground chamber where the Omega lies. The final confrontation is intense. Cage is mortally wounded by an Alpha, but in his dying moments he manages to detonate his grenades, killing both the Alpha and the Omega in a massive explosion. As Cage's body is engulfed by the Omega's blood, something extraordinary happens. He awakens once again, but this time it's different. The war is over. Cage finds himself back at the moment he first arrived in London, but the context has changed. The Mimics have been defeated. General Brigham announces in a press conference that a mysterious energy surge in Paris wiped out all Mimic activity. The invasion is no longer necessary, and humanity is safe. In the film's final moments, Cage returns to the military base and seeks out Vrataski, who does not recognize him due to the reset. In an emotionally satisfying conclusion, Cage smiles as Vratoski greets him with the same brash attitude as their first meeting, knowing that everything has changed and that their connection will begin anew. Edge of Tomorrow is a thrilling mix of sci-fi action, intricate time loop mechanics, and deep character development. Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt deliver standout performances, while the film's inventive plot keeps viewers on the edge of their seats. The blend of intense combat, humor, and the philosophical exploration of fate and sacrifice make this one of the most unique entries in the genre. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Edge of Tomorrow, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more in-depth film breakdowns. Until next time, keep your exoskeletons charged and stay ready for the next reset.